Welcome to the 14th Annual Port Townsend Film Festival, JJ.
Thank
My
you.
name is Nora Petrich. I am here with the Film Institute and also KPTZ Radio Port Townsend. So you are JJ Kelley, and you are no stranger to the Port Townsend Film Festival. You were here in, was it 07 with Paddle to Seattle?
07, I was here last year with Go Ganges.
You were here with last year with Go Ganges, and this year you are really here with two films. You're part of two
Trying
films.
to up the ante.
Upping the ante. So, yes, I see that Battle for the Elephants.
Mm-hmm.
Battle for the Elephants was produced in association with National Geographic.
Correct.
And your other film, Creating Art from a Plastic Ocean, was something that Dudes on Media, with Media?
Dudes on Media.
Dudes on Media, and that was produced by Dudes on Media. Let's start with Battle for Elephants. That was an amazing film. You were in China, Kenya, Switzerland, and Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
And were you part of every aspect of the film?
I was on from the beginning. An incredible team that I've worked with before. Director John Hemingway and another producer, Katie Carpenter. The three of us came together again for a film on the illegal ivory trade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bad right now for the elephants. Right now we have the lowest elephant population we've ever had, ever in recorded history. And we had this problem about 30 years ago, and then we made some decisions that seemed to stop the trade. And then recently, it's gone off worse than ever, and it is a genocide right now. So what we did is we interviewed and followed a few different correspondents.
Mm-hmm.
And I was primarily tasked with going undercover in Tanzania.
That's what it appeared to be, that you were definitely undercover, and it looked a little sketchy at times.
It was extremely dicey.
Uh-huh.
So what we wanted to do was get evidence of the illicit ivory trade, to catch these guys red-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And we met with the Minister of Tourism in Tanzania, and he said, basically, we don't have a problem with our ivory trade here. And we got him saying that on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then we said, okay, that's fine. And then we went out to get evidence to basically name and shame him, to prove him wrong, because we had heard that 30 elephants a day are getting killed in this one country of Tanzania.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's
That's
a lot.
a lot of animals. Mm-hmm.
So what we had is little button cams and pen cams,
Mm-hmm.
like this,
Mm-hmm.
and a key fob, and even my iPhone. And
Mm-hmm.
we spent many days with these traders, getting their confidence,
Mm-hmm.
and then they showed us the goods, basically, and we had the evidence to get them arrested.
And they were arrested?
They were, but the fines in Tanzania are so weak that he probably got out the next day. Basically, it's a $100 fine, which is a fair amount in Tanzania, but it's not that much. You know, one of the great benefits and the benevolent outcomes of this film have been the U.S. government took notice, and we screened the film for senators. We had a big screening in New York at the Explorers Club, and the U.S. government has taken a stand. You wouldn't think so, but we have quite a bit of ivory here in the U.S. government that they have confiscated from people smuggling it into the country. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is tasked with managing this ivory. And in 3 weeks' time, much in part because of this film, the U.S. government is going to destroy their stockpile of ivory. They're going to crush all of this ivory, which is extensive, and basically say, this is of no value. If you're going to have a beautiful artwork that's taken a lot of time to carve, or a majestic species, we choose the species.
Yeah, I was wondering which way that controversy would go. Would countries start destroying the ivory or holding on to it? And it seems very controversial, but I can understand the necessity to
Yeah, it's extremely
destroy it.
contentious. And this isn't the first time that governments have taken a stand and destroyed their ivory. Richard Leakey in Kenya did it about 30 years ago. Gabon did it just a couple of years ago. So the trend is nothing new, but you have a lot of people that say, you know, this ivory has value. These countries can make a lot of money. These desperately poor countries can make a good deal of money selling a resource that they have. But at the same time, if it leads to the extinction of a species that those same countries rely on for tourism, well, it's not a clear-cut yes or no, this is the right decision. So it's my opinion that it is good to say that this is of no value. We choose the species.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You were in China And you helped film that part of the
Yeah,
movie as
just a
well?
little bit. It was primarily based in East Africa.
I was wondering if you had any perception of the Chinese thinking on this, and if you think a film like this might help them change their affection.
I mean, that's a really great question, and it's extremely complex because the Chinese government is the organization selling the ivory to the people in China.
The government itself.
The government owns stockpiles, or what's being sold through these high-end retail stores. So it's really of no advantage to them to stop the trade because they stop losing money, their people want it. So they create really hazy messages.
Mm-hmm.
Ivory in Mandarin means teeth, and they basically think the teeth fall out naturally. Well, that's not the case. If an elephant loses its tusk at the root, which is where they hack it to get the most ivory,
Mm-hmm.
the elephant will die.
Mm-hmm.
The elephant also uses those tusks to scratch salt for defense, to attract mates. So it's not a good solution to harvest this animal that takes really 50, 60 years to develop all this ivory, to basically harvest it just for an ornament. It's not like it's subsistence that we're using, as a food source. It's purely auspicious for them. It's just this material that is of decorative value.
Yeah. And it was horrifying to see the size of the tusks that are now being harvested, I guess is a term you could use.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 6'5", and there were tusks that I saw in this Tanzania repository that were bigger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly large tusks. And now they're killing elephants because they just don't find the big tusks anymore. They're killing elephants with tusks this big,
Right.
this big, babies.
Right. You think there's any hope?
Well, I mean, it was very encouraging to see the U.S. government take a stand. That I'm hopeful about. Senator Kelley, who's now in the House, he is taking a stand, and Hillary Clinton is taking a stand. So yes, and it's just, we have to get to the Chinese people and share this message. Now, we had the same problem here as a country. 55 years ago, we used to make all of our piano keys out of ivory, tickly ivory, billiard balls out of ivory, brushes, combs, and we decimated the elephants quite a bit ourselves. And then it just wasn't in vogue anymore to have ivory. So we need that same kind of shift in the Chinese culture. And I'm hopeful. We're making a Mandarin version of the film. There's going to be a second film coming out through National Geographic. So we're not going to rest. Right?
And the Africans themselves are taking larger and larger measures to protect their own.
Yeah, Hands Off Our Elephant is a huge movement inside Kenya right now. And
that was a heartwarming part of the movie, is to see these people really standing up for the population of elephants and working hard and taking pride in doing that.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, you have to pay these people living wages to protect the elephants, so it's advantageous for them to have the animals. So.
Right. Well, thank you for bringing that film to Port Townsend and to the world. It's an amazing story, and we wish the elephants all the best.
Thank you.
This other movie, Creating Art from a Plastic Ocean, that was also a hard movie to watch in a different way. It's we humans destroying ourselves and the environment. It looked like your buddy Seth had played a part in that because of his Alaskan connection. And were you a part of that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a smaller project that I pitched to National Geographic, and it was the first time that our production company has made a show for National Geographic, so we're really proud of that. And it's another conservation film, and our films are more migrating towards protecting and raising awareness of the planet, because our earlier films were adventure, fun, in these beautiful, pristine, untrammeled places, and we just started to notice over the years more and more that those areas were becoming smaller and smaller, and it's like, why celebrate this one beautiful area when you're not really looking at the bigger picture? So we didn't want to, they're tough topics to talk about, destroying species, destroying the planet. It's like super depressing, so trying to make that in a way that's entertaining so people will actually watch it and engaging and not just a complete downer. So celebrating the natural beauty that is left is important.
Yeah, that's a wonderful style you have in your filmmaking, is to keep it light and entertaining And,
Thank you.
yeah, so you started off as an adventurer, you still are an adventurer. Your first films were a little wackier and just into a lot of fun, and you've gotten a lot more serious.
A little bit. We still are pretty wacky.
Uh-huh.
And
Keeping the whack going.
yeah, we're going to do another adventure coming up, and I think it's good to step back and to put a little bit of a light tone on everything and not make it a life and death situation. I mean, these are real topics, but you're not going to get an audience if it's so depressing that people don't want to watch.
Right.
So you have to tiptoe that line.
Right. Did you study filmmaking in school? Was that?
It's a good question. No, I studied environmental education,
Okay.
so learning about the natural world and teaching people about it. And then I got an internship at National Geographic, and that's where I got all my formal training.
Okay.
So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I just know that I liked being outside and having adventures, and I did that for a while.
Mhm.
And then we wanted to share those incredible stories, so we just carried cameras.
GoPro? Did you use
Well,
GoPro?
I use GoPro today, but this was before GoPros. It was at the time these tapes called HDV, and we had the cameras in these big housings, and the quality of a little tiny GoPro is much nicer now than these big cameras we had where we would hold them on a pole or on a kayak like this and try not to fall over.
Yeah.
Now you're just like with the GoPro, it's super
And
easy.
you can fall in and
Yeah,
be all right,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Great. Well, what would you like to tell the audience before we wrap it up?
Well, I just say that I love the Port Townsend Film Festival.
Mhm.
4 films here, and then I've been here 5 times, once as a juror.
Mhm.
And I love it. I love that the community wraps itself around the filmmakers,
Mhm.
and the venues are always unique and thoughtfully chosen for the film, and the organizers put you in places where you're going to meet not only filmmakers, which happens in most festivals, but community members. And that to me is extremely important,
Mhm.
is connecting, because I've worked on so many TV shows where I've put in tons of work and all of my heart to make this show, and then when it's actually on television, I'm working on the next show in some kind of crappy hotel and depressed that nobody sees this film.
Mhm.
And to actually have people watch it and talk to you about it, that is the most meaningful part of being a filmmaker for me.
That's great. So film festivals really support your work and energize you.
Absolutely, but it's not, some film festivals, they'll spread everybody out and it doesn't have a soul. Port Townsend Film Festival has a soul, and that's why I love it so much.
Wonderful, wonderful. What are you working on now? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of films on the horizon. Right now, I just want to take a step back and do something kind of fun. So I'm
Right.
producing for the New York Marathon,
Mhm.
a month of little pieces that'll be on ESPN,
Mhm.
and going to travel around the country and follow some runners. So that should be fun, and then more films to follow.
Great. I'm sure you have a long and successful career ahead of you. Thank you for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.